Every now and then, a Gundam model kit comes out that's so unique, so different from everything else, it completely breaks the mold. And this right here, the high-grade Black Knight Squad Cal-re-A, is one of those kits. This is not like any other Gundam model kit we have ever seen, ever. This is completely made out of a gloss plastic with some unprecedentedly nice gold plastics that it almost feels more akin to a Bandai Digimon kit than a Bandai Gundam model kit. It's the best mix of both worlds. Now you guys did tell me during the build of this that Cal-re-A is the Japanese for Garuda, so it does really fall in line with the kind of god names like Shiva we would have seen with the Black Knight squads. Now I will mention first off, if you want to check out the review of the Black Knight Shiva, you can do that on here. And if you want to see this kit being built, you can do that on here too. And if you do want gunpla all of your own, I will throw a link down there in the description, because this video right here would not have been possible without those absolutely awesome people over at Hobby Link Japan. Now let's get this thing reviewed. So jumping straight on into the aesthetics, and it's hard not to be completely mesmerized by this design right here. When this was coming out, I expected it to be a little bit more generic gunpla than it actually is. But this, like I mentioned, is the perfect combination of Bandai's gunpla and Bandai's Digimon kits. My biggest fear was the gold would be not so great in here, and the gold, although not perfect like nice painted gold, does look incredibly good. We've got two shades, which really adds to it. We've got a duller shade, which is what's used on a lot of the joints and some other aspects, and we've got a super high gloss, yellowy, true gold that just really catches the light. On top of that, we've got that nice white plastic too, and as far as I can see, we've got two tones of white plastic in here, both of which in a semi-gloss, and again, feeling extremely, extremely premium. So when it does come to the overall color separation on this is absolutely incredible. The vast majority of the colors are on here, besides a couple, which I will mention in a minute, and they are a little bit on the problematic side. Now, during the build I did show how you actually layer on a lot of the white parts onto the gold under sections in order to kind of get the gold detail that is all around the place. The payoff that you do get is absolutely incredible. The way the shoulders look, the chest, it just looks so perfectly color separated, and Bandai has done it insanely well. None of the gold on this is a sticker, nothing like that. So there is a couple of color inaccuracies, which sadly are a little bit of a letdown. So if we do actually blast through the stickers that are in here, well, the biggest issue, of course, are the big ones right there, but we do have choices up top. That is 1, 2, 3, 4 for the eyes. These are basically for the placement of, I guess, its single eye. So we do have a little bit of a line off to the left, we've got a dot off to the left, we have blank, and the one that I went with was this one right here, which is just that kind of Gundam-y looking eye off to the right-hand side. Now, I just went with this because it was the one in the box. That is literally it. Now, I noticed the red on that doesn't quite pop as much as your usual Gundam eye, which is a little bit on the disappointing side, but still, maybe it's meant to be a little bit less noticeable than your average eye. The next couple of stickers we have in here are these ones right here. All of these right here are your basic kind of Gundam cameras. First one is on the front of the head up there. It does have that little bit of a white border on itself, which does work incredibly well. The other one is around and on the back, a little bit harder to place than the front one. And the last one right there, that is for on the beam rifle, which we'll take a look at later. Now, those ones right there, those are the definite elephant in the room. We've got 16 of those and 2 of these, and they're all on the backpack. So all of these are basically along the back like this. These are kind of those multi-surfaced sort of stickers, so they are a little bit difficult to apply. And speaking of difficult to apply, these ones right here, these actually attach into a very recessed area, so those are incredibly difficult to apply. I'd honestly recommend at least painting these ones with a metallic purple. It's easy to sand off the edges then, and you get it done a whole lot easier. But it would look really plain without that purple, because that purple is a very nice shade. We do actually get one little piece of purple, and that's on here. So yeah, as for the rest of the color separation on this, for the vast majority of it, it is just the white, 2 shades of white that is, the 2 shades of gold, but then we do have some detail with that purple section on the waist unit, and some light blue around on the shield segments. Overall, the color separation is incredible. The purple could be a little bit better, but we've seen a whole lot worse on Seed Freedom kits. So when it does come to the actual molded details on this, for example like the panel lines, this time around I will mention I didn't use the usual pore style panel liners I use for a review. These have harsh chemicals in them, and this is a sketchy plastic. It's quite brittle feeling. It's not that it will crack, it's just I feel like it might crack with those, so I just use the regular felt tip style ones, the simple ones, non-aggressive. You just rub them, draw them right on into the lines, wipe it away. If it's a little bit too messy, you can just hit them with an eraser. It's super simple, but they're just not as sharp and always seem to be a little bit on the erasable side over time. However, the kit does have some nice subtle panel lines all over the place that are worth filling in. We've got some lost detail in there that you wouldn't see without some lines. Nothing too crazy, but there is a couple of places worth lining. Now, I didn't line up on the wings, but there are a lot of nice lines on there too, if you want to fill those in and bring out that detail. When it comes to the model kit sins, aka knobs, seams, and molds, this kit isn't really that bad. Now, I will mention the ones that I noticed right off the bat. There are some seams, especially in the tops of the shoulders, which you can see from the way that the parts sandwich on. Any of these parts, we've got that cool gold color separation. We do have the seam lines too. Not the worst, definitely not. We have a couple of mold lines on the gold as well, which I would like to not see. You're definitely going to need some kind of a non-gloss destroying mold line remover for these, so I do recommend something like the Racer from Gun Primer. Anyway, jumping on into that full 360-degree spin now, so you can see every angle of this absolute beauty for yourself. This is like nothing else I have ever seen and feels and looks nothing like any high-grade Gundam kit out there. It's got a little bit of a Knight plus Gundam plus almost Sinanju-y kind of flair to it. The gold aspect's very Sinanju-esque, same as the head, that big point coming out from the top of it, mixed with some Gundam-ishness with those almost reborn's Gundam kind of V-fin-esque head points. The whole thing is just so cool. The wings give it a lot of nice mass round back, and overall this is an incredible design. One that, when I actually saw the original release pictures of it, I thought it didn't look that great, but in the hand, in person, this is ridiculously impressive. So now jumping into a bit of a size comparison, there's the usual 1/44th scale test beside the RX-78-2, the high grade and the real grade, which are slightly different heights, so take that as you will, but as it stands, it's a pretty big high grade. Next up there it is side by side with the high grade Mighty Strike Freedom and the high grade Black Knight Squad Shiva. So popping off the lights there because a lot of you guys asked this question, and that is, does it glow under black light the way that the Mighty Strike Freedom did? Now this doesn't come up too obviously on video, but the gold parts on the Mighty Strike Freedom really do glow under black light. This doesn't happen at all on any of the gold on this particular kit. There it is side by side with a couple of random high grade Seed Freedom kits, which is the Rising Freedom and the Murasame Kai. A couple of Witch from Mercury kits being the high-grade Schwartz set and the high-grade Calibarn, and beside a couple of random high-grades off the shelf, which is the high-grade Exia and the high-grade Gundam Barbatos. So jumping into the accessories, and here is the high-grade Cal-re-A with absolutely everything that comes inside of the box. So of course we do have the robot itself, then we've got the sword and beam rifle, no board in this kit besides the boards on the back of its arms. The swords being a pair of these beam katanas, the rifle being this nice big chunky beam rifle, and then we've got some extras for parts forming the wings. And speaking of the wings, we do have some effect parts as well as some beam sabers. Now when I say some, I mean a lot. We've got a whole bunch of beam sabers, I'm just not gonna line them up on there. And when it comes to the effects for the wings, this is them. Now, I didn't take these off because they are labeled what they are, and I don't want to screw them up in the review and put them on the wrong places, so I didn't pull them off the acetate sheet just yet. Just a couple here for the look, and so you can see what they look like. So first off, starting off with a little bit of a bad move by Bandai. That is, we do not have any alternate hands in this kit. The only hands we do have are the standard style block holding hands. Now these are in gold, which means you can't actually buy some matching widespread hands for this kit because they don't come in gold, they just come in grey. With regular old grey kits I could ignore it, but it is a little bit of a letdown that there's no options in here. If Bandai was to include hands with a kit, I feel it should be the ones with the kind of unique coloured hands. Next up, mentioning compatibility a little bit, this has the standard backpack adapter, so it means you can actually use it with other backpacks. Of course, that does mean I'm going to go and grab that Mighty Strike Freedom backpack. These right here are definitely a couple of mobile suits with a whole lot in common, and that of course being the gold inner frame. And speaking of which, one thing you could totally steal for using with this kit is that hand right there. That would definitely work with it if you want a widespread, but the back of the hand will be a little bit different. Alright, so first I'm just going to throw the backpack off the Cal-re-A onto the Strike Freedom right here. That should just pop on nice and handy. It totally does fit, so if you do want to attach that on, you can. And that right there is what it looks like. Besides the purple stickers on there, it does match up incredibly, incredibly well if you do want to make a little bit of a kit bash. Next up anyway, and the thing with this particular backpack right here is it does have these little pieces right here that outcrop a little bit. I'm not sure if you can actually see that. So a lot of the time that does mean this backpack doesn't fit flush onto other kits, but it looks like we may be in... No, we're not in luck. Yeah, that doesn't fit at all. So yeah, the issue this time around isn't actually the bottom, it turns out to be the top. So when you actually get this lined up with the holes, as you can see, it just conflicts with it right there at the top. So even though this could look pretty cool attached onto this particular unit, well, it doesn't fit. I'll also mention the other way around doesn't actually fit that prettily onto the actual Strike Freedom. There's a little bit of a gap where that upper section on the Cal-re-A is. But anyway, talking about other aspects of the compatibility, these Seed action frame Gundam Seed Freedom movie kits all are compatible. If you pop off your shoulder just like this, you can attach on the arm. It's the same with the legs and all that sort of stuff. So if you like to mix and match parts, you can totally kit bash yourself your own custom Seed kit. Jumping into the equipment now, and first off we've got the AMS Enhanced Swords, a pair of what are essentially between a beam saber and a katana. This right here is what they look like. For the most part, it's just this big old white piece. At the top, then we got a little bit of that nice gold, and the beam section just slots in like so. A very typical Seed looking beam, just in a different color, being red. At this point, I'm going to get the not so Black Knight into the air. A lot of people ask me every single time I show this stand, what is it? So it is the Simple Stand by Good Smile Company. It is $12 for 3 of them. They are great. They're the best stands, and I haven't found anything yet to compare. Definitely not anything by Bandai. Getting these attached into the hands is super simple. You just slide them into the hands, simple as that right there, nothing to it. There's what the Cal-re-A looks like in a bit of a pose, and this definitely looks cool. Now, I will mention these are probably the most painfully basic swords I've seen on a Gundam kit in a long time. I think it's just the big solid area of white isn't the coolest looking thing I've ever seen. Anyway, it looks good in a pose, and when they're not in use, you just pop them out of the hands, take off the beam just like so, and then you attach them in really old school Seed style by just dropping them onto a tab in the top like so. There's no cool locking mechanism or anything like that, so whether or not this will hold in feels a little bit sus, and it's definitely going to get in the way of the backpack ever so a bit. Not all the time, a bit. The next weapon we have in here is the High Energy Beam Rifle. Nice and unique. Again, it's giving me a little bit of a Sazabi kind of feel. It's thick, it's squared off in a lot of ways, and we do have a nice little bit of color separation up on the side. The attachment point is just this little peg that's always sticking out the side, so not awesome. And we do have a little bit of a side section color separated nicely in that white, and a sticker for the actual blue side. Attaching this into the hand again is simply just slot it in, no disassembly required. When it is attached, it is quite basic, but it does look very nice. It's a unique shape. There's lots of nice surface detailing on it, so get a little bit of ink into those and it will definitely shine. The nice little bit of white color separation is always a plus. And thankfully, unlike some other rifles we've seen so far in this line, it's not missing anything and no colors need to be added. So when this is not in use, it's the usual routine. You pop it out of the hand like this, and there is a little bit of a tab on the side of it you can attach around here on the rear skirting armor. Now, this does clash once again a little bit with the swords when they're in their scabbards, or should I say on the hip, and a little bit with the wings as well. So the storage of weapons does kind of interfere with the movement quite a bit on this kit. Otherwise, though, it does hold on tight and looks absolutely fine. So before I move on to those crazy wings around back, I will mention a couple of the onboard weapon systems. So first off, this little blue section around the back of the arm does look like your typical beam shield, because apparently this is a beam shield. So there is no effects or anything like that in the box, and this doesn't come off for, well, doing anything special. Also inside the chest right here, we do have the Hyper Impulse Gun Andro Onzi. So all you do to get this out is just slide this little segment down like that, and that is a very nice detail. That's so cool and very slick. For a high grade, you don't normally see those sort of little things, so that is a nice little hatch. So finally, it's about time we got into the main event of this kit, and that of course is those ridiculous wings around back. Now, as we saw in the build, these actually build up as kind of either or kind of layout, as in the stored doubled up wings, these are actually built as just one piece, and when they actually fold out, they don't fold out, you have to build them onto another aspect. So in order to do everything this does, and as well as to get those, and I may be butchering this right here, Sahasrabujas. From here on out, I'm going to call funnels. But yeah, to get those funnels out, you just pull them off the wings just like so. These can be used then with the included beams, which just attach into these little fold out sections on the sides. There's a grand total of 8 of these attached onto the wings, and in order to actually display these flying around in the air with the Black Knight Cal-re-A, it does also mean you're going to have to switch to the other style of wing, which means you're going to have to take all the upper sections from the double wings and attach them onto these longer, extended wing segments. Now, seeing as I'm going to be displaying this with those funnels flying all over the place, that means it's time to use the energy effects in here. These come on an acetate sheet, which is very simple. Now, I was wondering how these would turn out, and the spoiler right here is absolutely fantastic. These look great. Basically, you just take each of these and attach them onto the wing segment. So this is a choice. You can not use these and attach on the funnels onto the wings, or use these when the funnels are flying around the place. Now, I did not take these off the sheet for the main reason I didn't want to mix them up, but it actually looks like you cannot mix these up. There's 2 types of each effect. However, they are mirrored, so you will always know which ones go to the front. Also, there is 2 pegs and a little bit of an aligner on each of these, so you can't put the wrong effect in the wrong place. You could put it on backwards, but you'd know from the color. They've got yellow on the front, and on the back they're not colored, so they'd just be in white, as well as the red, of course. You just slot the armor parts down over them like so, locking them in position, throw on the wings, and this is what it looks like. I am super impressed by how well these effects work. They're so cool. I thought just simple acetate sheet effects would look kind of dull, but they do not. These are awesome, and this thing looks divinely angelic. I'll also mention, I almost forgot to say, but to get these funnels attached onto stands, you can use whatever stands you want. The instructions does recommend the Witch from Mercury ones. I do have these, but these ones aren't built, and the ones I've built I actually moved a piece of furniture, so now I can't get into the drawer anymore that they're in, so I just grabbed some standard action bases to pop them on. Anything with 3mm will do, but I will mention, taking off the segments hiding the 3mm holes is really hard. I had to actually use a nipper to remove them, and that's not that great. Tweezers, pliers, didn't work. Anyway, once again, that is what it looks like in a pose of those funnels flying around the place, and this looks ridiculous and over the top. Next up then, it is getting those parts off, and thankfully I will mention this is quite easy. You just kind of lift off the upper section and then you can just take off the effect part and close it down again. It is that simple, so taking them off is definitely a lot easier than sticking them on. Very easy. I do recommend taking the wings off just not to screw things up. I tried to see if I could just lift, take off, lift, take off, lift, take off without taking the wings off, but it didn't really work out. Then when it comes to attaching the funnels back onto these particular wings, it's just big, small, big on both the wings, and that's it. They attach on super securely, super easily, and these wings, once finally put together, do look incredible too. Not quite as over the top as those effect wings, but still looking nice, regal, and awesome. So finally now into the articulation, and because I did spend so much time playing with the wings on this, I'm going to have to blast through it pretty quickly. First off, it is quite solid. The wings are a little bit heavy, and this in general is heavier than your average high grade by at least a good, I'm going to estimate like 25% or something. It is a hefty little kit. Now I'm going to take off the wings just to get this tested out. As for the wings themselves, in case I forget about them, all these can do is flap forward and back ever so slightly to get a nice little bit of a backwards curve onto it, but that is all. As for the mobile suit itself, the only thing I noticed that happens sometimes is the neck will loosen up and then the head will start bobbling around. It's just kind of the weird design of the kind of like, well, if you can see from the build here, there was a neck on 2 side pegs that attaches in, and then it's held in by the white section on top. That is what the issue is. That can kind of come a little bit loose, but you can just push it back down again. Not the worst. So finally thrown into the usual pose, and this is great overall besides one aspect. The hips in this are just so limited. Now, Bandai did not put dropping hips into this like it has with a lot of the other Seed kits that are out there, the Seed Freedom kits. Even though it looks like they could have done it if they wanted to. That does greatly limit this on the ground, so it means you can't get the full knee bend out of it because you can't kick the legs up all that, well, to the front. That's not really the biggest deal considering this isn't the kind of kit you're going to be leaving standing on the ground. You're going to have it up in the air where you can unlock the full potential of its articulation, which is incredibly good. Just, like I said, limited at the hips. So anyway, that right there is it for the review, and this is a platinum tier kit, definitely. Now, I'm just going to backtrack on something I said a little while ago in the Gundam EX video. I said I was going to get to the new ranking system like right now, like really soon, until I realize that's going to kind of screw me over a little bit when it comes to the best kits of the year. I kind of need to keep them all the same tier-wise in order to compare them to each other. So I'm going to leave it till after the 1st of January, basically until 2025 before bringing that in, just so it doesn't get confusing and it's a nice clean break. But anyway, Platinum tier. Aesthetically, this is one of the most unique kits out there. It might be a love it or hate it for some people. It's got an Gundam-y vibe with a nice aesthetic with that gold on white and a lot of injection gold, but Bandai pulled it off in an incredible glossy, reflective, beautiful sort of way. When it comes to the accessories in here, there's so much. You've got your crazy half sword, half beam sabers, and nice beam rifle, but what really does steal the show is that backpack and all the different options. Closed wings, open wings, absolutely incredible yet simple effects, but of course it is a little bit sad that the wings don't actually move themselves and that we don't have any dynamic hands inside of the box. Next up then, when it comes to the articulation, overall absolutely fantastic, solid kit. They put the strong gold where it needs it, so this doesn't feel like it's going to be a break risk. However, the hips could have done with a dropping mechanism just to get a little bit more out of the legs, but overall, fantastic. Again, Platinum tier, ridiculously awesome. Highly recommended to those of you who like unique kits and loved Seed Freedom. Anyway, I got mine through Hobbylink Japan, link in the description. As always, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to come back for more Gunpla reviews, and I'll see you next time. Once again, I kind of finished this video right here without thanking each and every one of you guys for watching my videos. That makes absolutely everything on here possible. If you don't want to support more interesting videos or just to improve the overall quality of the channel, you can help out on the channel memberships and over on Patreon. Patreon is really what does fund any and all improvements quality-wise to this channel. So a special shout out to Abraxas, Caleb Engelhart, Joe, RG59061, ShadowWolf179, Van Fawn, and Scotty Thomas. Link to join the Patreon and the Discord down there in the description.